Hi, and welcome to Stimming and Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. And as I do every week, and it is no less true this week than it is any other week, we have another great guest. We have Angel Johnson with us today. I can't even wait for you guys to hear her story. She is a woman of color in STEM, and I just know her story. I know a little bit about her story because, as my audience will know, they well know that I stalk people on LinkedIn. um, and I reach out, and I'm always surprised when people say yes. But I am very glad that, Angel, you said yes today. So welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Also, thank you for your platform. I mentioned this before to you, but what you're doing is super important. There's not a lot of women of color in this space. So it's always good for someone like you to be passionate about the topic, but also to dedicate your life and your work to the mission and to the cause.
Oh man, thank you. So sweet. I get touched every time. Just every time. It's just it's a passion project that has sort of morphed into this opportunity to meet other people, other women of color who are working in this space. And I have a community of people that I didn't know I have. So it's been a blessing to me.
Good.
Okay, so as we start every episode, Angel, tell us your STEM story.
Wow, such a weighty question. I would actually take that back to my roots. I'm always very honest about where I came from. I grew up in North Philadelphia, then West Oak Lane, and then Mount Airy. And so my roots are in Philadelphia. And I did not see a lot of people in tech. This wasn't that type of story.
Right.
I didn't know anyone in tech. I was just an average kid doing average things in an average area. And so I knew that I did want to go to college. So I started out at Morgan State. I was a business administration major. And then I took a computer class and I fell in love with it. And so I knew that I did need to hightail it back from Baltimore back to Philly because the money was flowing out of the pockets in student loans when I was at Morgan State. And so I said, you know what? Temple has a great computer information systems program. Go ahead, change your major and then transfer to Temple, which was home for me. And it was maybe a third of the cost. And so I was like, okay, that's what we're going to do. I've always been very money conscious. So I've always, even as a kid, knew my parents never said anything. I told my parents I was transferring to save money. And so, so transferred to Temple, computer information systems major. I was in the computer lab all day, every day.
Wow.
Yes, it was very intense. There were not a ton of people. I had my core group, but there were not a ton of people that looked like me, talked like me. But I remember distinctively, like, you need to finish, Angel. It's not enough to go to college. You
Right.
need to complete it. You need to complete this no matter how hard it is. This is always a story that I like to tell. So C++ programming language was
Oh,
extremely hard for me.
oh, you bring about bad memories.
Yes. And I got a D the first time, which is not passing for Temple. And so I knew I needed to take it again, but I went to the chair of the department. And I was like, I was, a little emotional, I was like, I'm, trying to figure this out. I can't, just wanted to see if you had any recommendations for me. And I'll never forget this. And, it's God is my witness. He told me you might want to consider changing your major. And it's kind of like somebody punched me in the chest. I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, it was only one class, like I was trying
Right.
to like ration, give my piece of my mind,
Make it make
he
sense.
was not going for it.
Right.
He
Wow.
was like, yeah, I mean, you don't understand it, which was true. I did not understand it, but I was like, and I left out of there and I was, getting a little misty eyed. And I was like, yeah, that's not how you treat people. That's not how you treat students. He was the chair of the department. And it was that moment was a wake-up call for me.
Mm,
Um, that there were probably not going to be a lot of people that were interested in helping me. Um,
mm.
and that the treatment, it was almost like foreshadowing. If you want to stay in this lane, sister girl,
This is gonna be
this
what it is.
this is what is it. This is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it, even I still get chills just saying that out loud because that's real.
Yeah.
That was some real feedback. And I don't know if he was practicing tough love or if he just didn't give a bleep. But I suspect
You'll
he
never
just
know,
didn't
but
give
it did what it was, it did what it was supposed to do for you though.
Correct, correct. And so I took that and I had I've been very blessed to have good friends.
Hmm.
And I had a couple of friends, some inside of Temple, some out. And they said, you know what, try to find another instructor. And it's simple things like that. We just don't know. I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know that that was a thing. And so I found another instructor, and it was a woman, and I remember an Arab woman, and she was kind, and she was thoughtful and patient with me. And I took it under her, and I did not get an A. I got a C, but that was passing. So
Right.
I took it, and I was grateful. I was grateful for a helping hand because in that moment I needed a helping hand, someone to help me, because my brain, it was very, C++ was a very challenging, my brain just, and
Sheesh.
I tried every part of my brain
Oh,
to.
I get it. You do not have to explain it to me. I just I get it. I had to take I'm a mechanical engineer.
Mhm.
Had to take two, no, is that right? Yeah, two courses, and the course for mechanical engineering at the time was C++, plus plus, right?
Mhm.
So I get it. I get it. But I really want to reiterate for people who are listening, who may be going through something similar, is to do the same thing that you did, is to find another avenue. One no does not make your story, right?
For sure.
If you had listened to the department chair, like your life would probably be totally different, right?
For sure.
And so it just reiterates for me, like my professor, his name is, we used to call him OW. He's since he's probably having a conversation with God right now.
Mhm.
But he just, and he wasn't sweet and nice and kind. He was not. He was the exact opposite. But what he did for me was, it was it was when I went to his office, it was, sit down here, you're gonna get this stuff. Like, he was very like, I'm gonna see to it that you get this stuff because you can't keep doing this, right? So I would literally come to his office and I would be like, oh, OW just beats me up, right? But when I left, when I got through the classes, like,
Mhm.
I was passing, right? I understood
Mhm.
it in a way that I didn't understand it when I was sitting in class with another professor.
Yes.
So, and that's what I needed. So
Mhm.
your Arab instructor or professor, it was my OW.
Yes, yes. And she if I ever found her later, I would truly just thank her for her compassion.
Yeah.
In that moment, I needed compassion, because I was young, I was probably 19,
Mhm.
20 maybe. And although I've been very intuitive, I was always an old soul, out the womb, but I just didn't know how to find my way in that particular situation.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's difficult. And it's like you can't even tell. It's so weird. Not weird is wrong. You just can't tell people how to do it. Like, there's no one right way. So what worked for you probably wouldn't have worked for somebody else, wouldn't have worked for me, wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? So it's just sort of,
Mhm.
you can't even. really give them steps, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because their journey is going to be different. We just
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
that, help is always, a good place to, wherever you can seek that,
Yeah, yeah.
um, do, but like we can't tell you, okay, go to your department, right? Go to
Mm-hmm.
your,
Mm-hmm.
it just looks different.
It does, it does, it does. So yeah, so I and so last piece on that, that was the only class I had any real difficulty with.
Oh,
Um,
see, you
I
in there.
know, I know. And so that's why I was like offended because I was like, all my other classes are going in my major, we're going relatively well, A's and B's. And so I did complete, I graduated from Temple University, BBA in computer information systems. I was super proud. Neither of my parents had completed college, so it was a big deal. My grandmother had never completed college. It was just a really
Yeah,
big deal for my family and for
yeah,
me as well. I felt very proud of that accomplishment. And so, but I will say, so the blessing, I was in Enrolled. Shout out to Enroads.
yeah, me too.
I Yes, I had a bunch of internships in my major. So I was working at GE Capital at the time, and
Mm,
they were just such a blessing. I was embraced. They allowed me to work all year round. So instead of just the summers, I was able to leave Temple, head to GE, which was maybe about 30 minutes away, and then I would work. And so I got experience into like networking. I started
wow,
doing some programming in Power Builder and, just really business objects, just a lot of opportunities as a college student that a lot of people just don't get. And so by the
right.
time I had graduated from Temple, I had already had, 3-4 years of experience under my belt. And so I got an amazing offer. The company that I went with right out of college, they came on campus to recruit. They interviewed me right on campus, had amazing interviews. They made me an amazing, amazing offer. I mean, my parents couldn't believe it. Like my family was like, what? And they did not.
Right.
We were very celebratory with the offer, but that also was foreshadowing of where I was headed, which direction I was headed in. And so, it just, I would go from one job to the next. It was a really great opportunity. I hardly ever, maybe one time in my career, I had a little trouble finding work, but outside of that, it was very, very, offers every, you would get in one assignment, get another assignment,
Yeah,
making 20,000 more. I mean, like
right.
it was an amazing time. And then that just, kept going. And so you never really know, how long things will last, but I always was very confident in my skill set and what I bring to the table. I also always tried to stay in my lane, Natasha. Like that is my
Mm,
thing. I like to stay in my lane. I know my sweet spot. I know what I'm good at. I don't try to do, super stretch assignments or things that I know is outside of my lane. I like to stay in my sweet spot because I believe in spiritual gifts, and I believe that God gives us all spiritual gifts. And very early on, I've got to know what my spiritual gifts
mm,
are, and so I like to
wow.
operate in that
So
lane.
I listen. I feel like that is a mic drop because I think that's where some of us get into trouble, right? And it's not to say that you shouldn't stretch. That's and
Yeah.
you didn't say that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But it's when you're operating outside of those gifts, like we all have gifts, talents, experiences, abilities, some, some through our work experience and some other things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's our assignment.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
So so it's just sort of like knowing that and like walking in that, man, that is like that's the battle right there.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I always joke, I know people that consistently, the old folks used to say, they consistently go up the rough side of the mountain.
Mm.
That is not me. I find the smooth side, and then I talk to a couple people, see what type of, luggage they took up, and then I take that route. And I think that for me, I feel that's been a part of the success that I've had in my life. Is that I talk to people, I try to understand, I'm open to understanding new concepts, new recommendations.
Right.
And so I take that approach. And so, I worked on, many different things. I started out as a programmer, and then I moved into project management. So tech project management, tech program management. And then I realized, so I was doing a lot of mobile work. You'll have to have me back later in the year to talk about how I finagled into the mobile app scene, because that was not easy either.
I bet.
That was a tough one. And so, but then I saw that the more experience I obtained, there was still something lacking when I went to apply to more senior roles.
Mm.
They were looking for someone who had, an MBA, a master's degree. And I was like, Laura, you already know I barely made it through that first one.
Right. Like, I'm not trying
So
to.
you think we need to do this again? And I kept hearing yes. I kept hearing that things were different now, that, there were more remote types of learning, which was what I needed. At that point, I had already had a daughter. And so I needed something that I could do 100% online.
Yeah.
And those opportunities had changed. We're talking about 20 years since I had completed my undergrad degree. And so there were way more online programs. And so I found a reputable cybersecurity MBA program out of Johnson and Wales. And I was so pleased with the cost. The company that I was working with at the time, they took care of most of the costs. And so I then completed it and got an MBA in cybersecurity. And I was like, okay, I could do that. Okay, Angel, I see you, girl. I see you.
Yes, we about to do this. Yes.
Yes. And so, and that was really special when I graduated. All my family and friends were there, but my daughter was there too.
Yeah.
That was really, really special. She says she doesn't remember it, but she remembers it from the pictures, is what she tells me now. So I was like, I'll take it. I'll take
Right.
it.
It'll come back. It'll come back. I promise. It'll
Exactly,
come back.
exactly. And so then, that was maybe about 4 years ago. I started really focused on, giving back and what could I do? So I started working as the PTA co-president at her school. And I saw that there was a need to really try to bring in more tech programs on the elementary school level. And I thought to myself, you know what, Angel, you can probably influence a larger realm. Maybe you might want to go back to school again to get a doctorate. And so I just applied and actually just got into Purdue's University doctorate of technology. So I start in the summer. My goal is to bring more technology opportunities and learnings to the elementary school level in the
Wow,
US
that's
especially.
amazing.
Appreciate that.
I'm not even surprised, but like I'm just so happy for you. And I'm actually happier for like the community that you're going to help once you get done. It's just, you know, the conversation has been for a while actually, sort of how do we bring STEM to elementary? Because of course, it's like, we got to get them in middle school. Then it's like, well,
Well, high
let's put
school,
them in high
really.
school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think the conversation is now shifting because people realize that, like, if we go by based on the research, we lose kids, we lose boys by the third grade, little Black
Yep.
boys and minority
Yep.
boys by the third grade, right? If we don't capture them by the third grade, like we have such a short amount of time to
True.
capture them, we've lost them. girls by the fifth grade, minority girls by the fifth grade, if we don't capture them by the fifth grade, they're not even in middle school yet. So, so we're waiting until then to introduce them to STEM.
I
We've
know.
already
And
lost.
yep, and their brains are such little sponges. And I did
Yeah,
not know that until I had my own daughter, and I see, how much they're able to learn and
right.
retain. And some things, like the graduation picture, she doesn't really remember, but she remembers from seeing it.
Yeah,
And so I think it's really important to introduce those technology concepts at the early age, because you may not remember it, but there's a familiarity that you have with it. And
yeah,
so that's what I really would like to see changed. And again, who we are to be the change that we want to see.
right.
So I
That's
am going back
exactly
in the
right.
trenches one last time to talk one last time.
One last time. Go
Really,
ahead.
yes, yes.
Join the ranks of us.
I know,
There's,
doctor. I know
yeah,
it.
right. There's not a lot of us. And we're
Hmm.
still, that percentage is super low. So
For sure, for sure.
join
But yeah,
us.
so on average, that's what I'm up to. That is pretty much my STEM, my tech story. I've been very blessed to stay in technology, to do tech work that I love, but also to try to move the needle and impact my community as a whole.
Yeah, that's the work. I mean, you showing up as yourself every day and doing it in the space in which you do it is um is also the work, right? So you show what it looks like or what it is to be, Black and in STEM, Black in cybersecurity. It's like people need to see that, and people also need to understand like what it takes to actually do that, right? Because
Yeah.
I can, we didn't even talk about it, and we don't have to, but like I can understand some of the battles that you fought,
Mhm.
very quietly, silently, even,
Yes.
that people don't even recognize, right?
Yeah.
To be you in that space is special.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'll share one, and then I would like to talk a little bit about the anthology project.
Yes.
One of the battles, I was working for a company, ex company, and I had a supervisor, and we kind of started out very similar to like peers.
Mhm.
And so then he got promoted, and so then we were able to do really, really amazing work together. But as we would, so I was kind of leading the project or the program, and he was my supervisor. And so as I would launch an initiative for X company, it went amazing. It was like, oh, Angel, and they
Mhm.
would give me an award, and they would promote him up a level. And it happened after the first
Mhm.
time. I was like, hmm, okay,
I'm
that's
doing the work. They give me an award, but he gets promoted. Mm,
interested, so then I'm very vocal, as you are well aware. So I
right.
was like, hey, I'm noticing, I thought that I would have been promoted as well, and they were like, well, we don't have any roles that are kind of the next level for your role in this group. And so it was humbling. It was humbling. But again, these are the types of, and this happened maybe three more times. And then I was like, okay, I get the hint. I get the hint. It's not
Right.
going to happen,
Right. It's not gonna
Angel.
happen here. I gotta go.
Yeah, move on. And so I was able to kind of move into a different group and, get it that way. But, it's those are the types of things that we have in front of us.
Mhm.
No matter how talented, how smart, how well spoken, it's really hard to find companies, contracts. It's on both sides. It's not just kind of working for the man. It's even trying to get contracts.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. I started really looking for people that could help, that wanted to help. And so that's always my thing. If my gut says this person has your back and sees you and wants to help, I go in that direction, because at this point where I'm trying to go, I can't go alone. And
Right.
so I need someone to help. I need advocates, I need sponsors, on, and that's on, the corporate side, on the business side, and that just is. So, but yeah, so speaking of, I would love to, so I was invited by Kenyatta Rucker to participate in an anthology. And
Yes. Let's
yes,
talk about this.
yeah,
I can't wait. Okay, so
yeah. So it's titled, I believe, Ladies in Tech. It
Mhm.
launches right around, I think, the beginning of May. I have a chapter. There's about 12 of us, 12 women, and I have a chapter in that anthology, and my chapter is on interviewing and negotiating.
Ooh,
And so
what?
I know, I
Ooh,
know,
this is
I
juicy.
know it's so, it's a topic that has always been near and dear to my heart. There's statistics out there that state that women don't negotiate, and it's some sort
Right.
of like ridiculous percentage when you compare the negotiation that women do versus men. And that for me, and my friends know, because we have candid conversations. We don't leave money on the table.
Right.
We have got to. What happens is when you come in at that level, you're kind of stuck there until the next year. So you want to try to make sure, that your band is right, that that you're starting with the best base, because that's another thing. They'll try to throw in the trinkets. Well, we'll give you stock, we'll give you bonus. Well, the base, we got to make sure the base
The
is as
base is
right as
right.
possible,
Yeah.
because, it's the base that you're going to be spending at the grocery store, on the rent, on the mortgage. So, those are just, this topic is one that has been near and dear to my heart
Yes.
for
Speak
probably
on
15,
it.
20 years. Yeah.
I can't even
Um,
wait. Do you have so when this comes out,
mhm.
yes, read the chapter, because I think that this is one of those areas where we have been underserving ourselves
Sure.
for like decades
Yes.
and generations,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we don't negotiate. And I can be honest, I'll be at full transparency. I think I've said this on this show before. It was the first time I negotiated a salary. It was terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just like,
Yep.
oh my God, are they gonna, like they've offered me the job and I really want it, but at the same time, it's like, no, I'm gonna ask for what I want, right?
For
If the
sure.
answer is no, then that tells me this is not the place for me. So like you don't have to, you just need to really go in with the mindset of knowing what you want, what
Mhm.
you can live with, and what's
Yep.
an absolute no, right? If you
For
can do
sure.
those, those things, and then realize that you're worth it. Like that's the
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Like you are absolutely worth it.
It's the truth. Facts. Yeah, no, and it's a topic that we don't talk enough with women. I am very grateful that I have women in my life, professional women that I can talk to about numbers.
Mhm.
But you don't know. I'll never forget this. I had a girlfriend who is she is not Black.
Mhm.
And so we were kind of doing the same role at a particular company. And I asked her, and I was a little shy and sheepish to ask, but I was like, you're an angel,
Mhm.
put your big girl panties on and ask. And I
Right.
was like, how much are you getting paid? And she told me, and the number that she gave, Natasha, I was like, Lord Jesus, same
Right.
role, but she was getting paid more. And that was a wake up call. It was many, many years ago. That was a wake up call for me, because I was like, you have to do better. You have
Yeah.
to do better, because that money is very useful. I mean, you can apply it to many different things. Um, and when you do the math on how much you leave on the table every year without negotiating, it brings a
Right.
tear to your eye. I mean, it's a lot of money, and you can't really make that up. It's kind of money that's lost. and it doesn't have to be. So,
Right.
you know, it becomes very important to so yeah, so that's why this topic is very important to me, because I want to see more of us. I am the opposite of crabs in a barrel, you know, go get it. Go
Go
get
get
it. It's
it.
available.
Yeah.
If you don't ask for it, they're not going to offer it.
No.
And so, and I would say, you know, I've negotiated, I mean, probably over 10 times. And I will say that it was maybe only 1 to 2 times that they did not budge on average. Even if they just come up a smidge, you know, we could do, I remember when I was contracting, we could do an extra $1.50, you
Yeah.
know, cool. You know, I'm not going to, you know, poke you to death, peck you to death about it, you know, but that was $1.50, you know, in that case as a contract, you know, times 40 hours
Right.
times
Right.
4
So it was an
times
amount. It was a
52, you know?
significant amount, right? So
Correct.
I get it.
Correct.
I get
Yeah.
it. And I 100% agree. So I cannot wait to read the and what's the name? Do we have a name?
Ladies in Tech. Ladies in
Ladies
Tech
in
is the
Tech.
name of the anthology. It's about
Oh,
12 of us that are women in tech. And you know, we have a lot of, you know, promotional stuff
yeah,
lined up. But it does launch in the early May timeframe. And I'm super excited about the project.
yeah.
And definitely stay tuned.
Okay. So where else? Okay. So if people are looking for you, and
Yeah.
they will be looking for you, where can they find you?
Think LinkedIn, you know, I don't like to give out my personal deets, but you
Well,
know,
don't, because I cannot be responsible.
exactly. LinkedIn, I'm just getting the exact because I think it might still be under my maiden name, which is
Oh,
LaBelle.
I will post
Okay.
the link. So
Oh, perfect.
so you guys,
Yes.
you have to read the show notes. I say this all the time. And I'll take this time to actually do it again. Y'all have to read the show notes. Like you just got to read the show notes. I mean, I don't know how else to say that, but okay. You can find Angel on LinkedIn. And oh, where is the end? Is it going to be on Amazon, or is it going to be like,
Yes,
okay,
yes, yep.
okay, okay. All right. So I will, well, does it have a link yet or no?
Not yet, not yet. But yeah, definitely it will be all over LinkedIn once it's launched.
Okay, well, y'all got to pay attention to LinkedIn. You have to become a follower of Angel Johnson, and then you'll be able to get the link to the book, because I think it's going to be a good read, even if you only read her chapter.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And just reach out with any questions. You know, if you have any questions about negotiations or interviewing, you know, I'm open to doing a couple mock interviews. You know, I kind of help people along there. Yeah. So any
I,
program management questions, tech questions, obviously going back to school, applying
right.
to doctorate programs, you know,
All of
anything
that.
that I could be
Mhm.
helpful on.
No, I think,
Scholarships.
well, I just think it's so beautiful the way in which you have at this point chosen to give back to this community. So yes, so audience, if you guys are watching, if you guys are listening, Angel has offered herself up as a you can do mock interviews. She can talk to you about what the interview process is like,
Yes.
negotiating salary, but also if say you decide you want to go back to school. Now, I have an MBA and a doctorate also, so I followed the same path.
Mhm.
But your path might be different. So
Mhm.
there's a conversation that might be like, what are the benefits of getting an MBA when you have a degree in something other than like education or business, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So like, because there were the reasons that I got an MBA may not be, may not be relevant for you. So just have the conversation. So and Angel has offered herself to do that. Um, LinkedIn for her, please. Okay. Show notes. Go back to show notes. Okay, so the last question that I ask every single guest that's ever been on this show is, if you could travel back through time and you could talk to your younger self, what advice would you give her and why?
Yeah. So for me, it would be continue to follow your gut and follow your intuition.
Mm,
When I was younger, I heard the voice, but I wasn't 100% sure if it would net out on the positive side, you know, or on the negative side. And so that would be my advice, to always go with my gut, to go with the intuition that I have. The answer has always been inside of me. And I've known that, but I just didn't know how accurate that voice was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was very shaky. I would knew what I was supposed to do and I would do it, but I was like, well, I don't know. I'm following my gut, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, it has worked out tremendously. And that's not to say that I've lived a perfect life, because I haven't, but it is the life that I was supposed to live.
Uh,
And I know that now. My 45-year-old self knows that now, that I didn't know 30 years ago.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Love that. Love it. Y'all just, yeah. I always say, you never lie to you.
It's the truth.
It's just impossible for you to do. You always know the truth of the matter. If you are in tune with yourself in that way, then it actually makes things easier. I
Mm-hmm.
say in the sense because you always know the truth. It doesn't mean you always operate in truth, but
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
you do know it. So,
Yep. And I remember Felicia Rashad has said something around the universe. I think she has said this to her daughter, just around the universe wants the best for you. And
mm,
so as long as you know that, you know, you don't have to walk around feeling like it's against you. You know, you stay straight, go, you know, go with the tide. And the universe kind of takes care of the things that are outside of your peripheral. You know, we can focus on the things that we can control, but then have that expectation that God, that the universe is always working in your favor, even
mm.
when you can't. So,
And
and
that good
that's my
people is,
mic drop
I
there.
was going to say, and that good people is how you end an episode. It's just like there is nothing else to be said there. So again, I really wanted to thank you for just agreeing to be a guest on the show. Like I said, I'm always happy and shocked when a guest says, yes, they will
Of
come on the
course.
show and talk about themselves. Because I understand that for some people there's a cost to doing that. And so I always honor the folks that have been on the show, and I do the same for you today. I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think it's a cost to not share your story. So I really appreciate the platform, appreciate the opportunity, and really grateful for the work that you're doing. Thank you
Oh,
again.
all right, you guys. So that concludes another great episode of Stimming and Stilettos. And as always, y'all, keep yourselves safe.